Hey everyone, welcome back to another Exo Heroes video. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a beginner's guide, but it's going to be updated slightly in accordance with the new Season 2 release, so some of the advice will change from previous beginner's guides or other ones that you may have heard before. And so the first thing we want to cover as we get right into it is what type of content should you be focusing on unlocking and progressing through right when you start playing. If you're a new player, you just started today, what is the most important thing for you to be doing?
Yeah, so I think one thing we need to clarify is that the content really, there isn't a choice when it comes to which one to unlock, right? It's not like the game gives you an option of, oh, I want to do this rather than that. Most of the content in this game, or I would say all the content in this game, are unlocked as you progress through the main story quest, which means that for all of us out there, especially the new players, the most important thing you want to do and you want to focus on in the early game is just to focus on the main story quest. Progress as much as you can. Not only will that help you level up your heroes and get more resources, but it also just opened up different parts of the game to you as well, and that's something that's really important. So just focus on progressing through the story. I know there are the 3-star systems as many other games do have as well, but frankly, based on our experience, getting 3 stars isn't all that important. Progressing through the story to the next stage, to the next level, those are things that you should be focusing on more.
That's right, and don't feel bad if you're not 3-starring all the levels because, again, as you progress, as you unlock more content, you're going to be able to level up your heroes, make them stronger, and then eventually go back, re-challenge those quests, and then get an easy 3-star on them. So you will get it all 3-starred eventually, no need to worry about that. Now, one of the things, like Hao mentioned, that you are going to unlock as you progress is different types of challenges. And challenges are essentially this game's version of dailies. So there's different things like Blessing Sanctum, Ancient Gold Mine, Lunar Trade Route, and these are all different ways to get experience, get materials for upgrading your heroes, or gear. And so with each of these things, you're going to get 3 passes a day, and you'll unlock them gradually and then different levels and different difficulties as you progress. So every day, you should be trying to use up all 3 of your tickets to do that content. And as a general idea of where you should be in your progression, there's a little circle before you enter every battle that has a sign that says easy. Now, if the circle is fully completed and glowing, that means that your team should be able to clear this content easily. Now, for the challenges, because it's dailies, this actually unlocks a feature which is Quick Battle, where you can just select how many tickets you want to burn, click Quick Battle, and then it'll just automatically do it for you. It doesn't even run through the battle through AI, it just says that you've cleared it. So this is very, very efficient, and it makes dailies much less of a hassle than it could be in other games. But just make sure your heroes are adequately geared and leveled.
Yeah, and I want to add on that the importance of doing this consistently on a daily basis, right? Sometimes, we see these tickets and we want to save them up for later. But the game has a specific mechanics in which you can only save up to 9 tickets, and you're always getting 3 of them every day, meaning that if you don't do anything after 3 days, starting from day 4, you won't be getting any more tickets. So essentially, those are going to waste. So make sure you do them. You will always be getting more tickets in the future, so there's no reason not to do it. And also, we know that certain players are not going to have as much time as some of the others, and maybe you don't have enough time to complete all of the daily quests, all of the challenges. And if that's the case, there are a couple of places that we think you should definitely be focusing on. Specifically for all the beginners out there, the experience sanctum is really important because, as we mentioned, being able to level up your hero is the best way to make yourself stronger and the best way to progress down the story. And also, if you have time, definitely do the Ancient Gold Mines as well, because Ancient Gold Mines gives you gold, and gold is very, very important in the late game as everything you do, whether it's upgrading gear, empowering your new heroes, everything costs so much gold. So stockpiling as much as you can in the early game is going to have a profound impact later on in the game.
Right, and just like Hal mentioned earlier, with your passes, you get 3 every day and they sort of reset each day. And that's not the only thing though. There's also another resource called Levin Stones that also regenerate after you use them. And then this is actually for Overworld content, which is things like exploration, and then as you travel around the map in the Overworld, you'll notice little quests pop up, like let's say a totem or a golem, and in order to challenge this content, you need to use Levin Stones. So it's actually very important that you balance your usage of them, because it regenerates the moment you start using them, it's very important to keep in mind that you always want to be rotating through this resource. So for me personally, what I do at the beginning of the day, I'm just brushing my teeth, getting ready for the day. I'll just set my team out for smart exploration. The game will shut down after 5 seconds and it'll just go for, maybe 30, 45 minutes while I get ready. And then when I come back, all my levy stones have been used, I come back to a bunch of rewards. And so it's a nice free way to just sort of progress and get materials without actually needing to commit anything to the game. Now, there are some nuances regarding the Golem, Grave Robber, and Totem, and I'll let Hal talk about those.
Yeah, so apart from what Edward just mentioned, the exploration, whether it's smart exploration or I think it's called leafy exploration, apart from those, there are a few other ways you can use the levy stones, and that's, the Ancient Golem, the Ancient Totem, and Grave Robber. So the Grave Robber is always one that's very good to do because what it gives you is this gold clock, and it's essentially an equivalent of a hero summon. So you can use that in Door of Creations and get a chance of, any heroes in the game, all the way up to Fated Heroes. So it's really good, and you often see these little things running around the map, and you can just go up to them. It is relatively difficult to do it, and you need a specific Fate Core to guarantee that you can beat him, and that is the Gale Fate Core, which is something that you can get during the core raids. So for us, we're really recommending everyone, especially new players, whenever a core raid event starts, make sure you clear the first tier, because at the end of the first tier, you will be getting a Gale Fate Core, and with Gale Fate Core, you're guaranteed to crit every single time you attack the Grave Robber, and it will make clearing that super easy for you. So keep an eye out the next time a core raid event comes out. But now let's touch a little bit on the Ancient Golem and Totem. So Ancient Golem and Totems are great in terms of they use up a lot of levy stones and they give you instant rewards. So those are great. One thing we do recommend you to do is, if you do have more time, either do the smart exploration or the leafy exploration, because one thing you get from exploration that you don't get from Golem and Totems, or at least not as much, is character experience, right? The heroes don't gain as much experience per levy stone spent. And we talk about this a lot, right? Like, it's all about leveling up your heroes as much as you can. So if you can do it, in our opinion, going with exploration is a lot more efficient way, but obviously it takes a lot longer. So that's a trade-off there. But otherwise, in terms of other rewards, pretty much the same.
So moving on to our next topic, it's the question that I know I had, and a lot of you guys might have this as well, which is it better to level up just one hero and expect them to carry your team, or is it better to sort of distribute the resources evenly and have a balanced team? And, it's really easy to tunnel into this idea that, oh, I pulled a Fate Core, or I pulled a Fated Hero, and, I just want to build this guy up and he'll totally wipe everyone for me. The reality is very different. So early game, you definitely want to focus on building up one team, or maybe a roster with a couple of heroes you could swap in and out depending on the element. And this is to make sure that no matter what type of content you're facing, early game is going to be a lot of nature, dark, light, machine. So you want to have a good roster full of these heroes that are well leveled, that are well geared, so that you can go into this content and be able to survive the hits specifically on boss levels, but also consistently break Guardian Stones. And the reason we bring this up is because Guardian Stone breaking, due to the Season 2 changes, have become a lot more important in the early game. So for a beginner player, a lot of their heroes are probably going to be 3-star, 4-stars, and so their mana generation won't be as good until you bless them to 5-star, and it also depends on their passives being the level 2 or level 3 version of the passive. So it's actually very difficult to generate mana early on now compared to how it was before. So what do you do instead? You break the Guardian Stone of the enemy, and then once they're broken, every attack will grant you 1 mana. So this becomes the premier way of mana generation in battles, and it's something that you guys should really focus on and be cognizant of as you move into these fights. Now, another thing you want to prioritize is, because it's PvE, you're going to be hitting wave after wave after wave of enemies. And so AoE DPS, and specifically AoE dot damage, is really useful because you can hit all the enemies at once, and this makes it a lot easier to break multiple enemies, but also if one enemy is broken but you want to target someone else at the same time, it just offers a little bit more flexibility in terms of how you can clear these fights. So make sure you have a good balance of AoE, single target, damage over time, and a good mix of elements on your roster so you can break all kinds of Guardian Stones that you might come up against.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the biggest mistake you can make in the early game is to have too big of a roster, right? Like if you have 20 heroes and they're all level 30 and you're on like chapter 5, right? Because by then, none of your heroes are strong enough to really carry you forward. So pick out a selection of heroes that you like, that typically have AoE damage, that preferably have dot damage, and focus on those and just use them going forward. And eventually you can diversify that over time. But early game, because you have limited resources, put them into a small selected group.
So once you've got all this stuff sort of figured out, you're going to want to start maybe building out your team, getting more resources, right? And then how do you do that? And then how do you manage the resources that you do have, right? So one of the things that players get confused about a lot, and this isn't even new players, I mean, even old players might not know how to use this efficiently, and that's door to creation. So really early on, I'd say maybe before chapter 5 or maybe even 6, I would not touch Door of Creation at all and just save up all of these materials as they will be useful later. So the things that you should prioritize when you go into Door of Creation, it's essentially a way to craft things from the materials you've gathered. So you should definitely focus on crafting heroes, or I guess in this sense you're summoning them with your materials, and Levy Stones, which we had mentioned earlier. And then this is specifically for the early game because, like we said, Levy Stones, great for getting resources, getting materials, and leveling up, right? So these are very valuable early on. And one of the things that you're going to get a lot of, that you're going to be using a lot of in Door of Creation is Exodium. So Exodium should be used for crafting heroes, and this allows you to build out a more diverse roster. And I know we talked about keeping a small one, but that's just for early game. As you start approaching the end game, you are going to want more heroes as the battles will get harder, and you're probably going to want to jump into PvP as well. So it's important to have different elements and multiple heroes of each element as well. Duplicates that you don't want should be disassembled, not sold. And this is very key, because when you disassemble them, you get materials that you could use to then craft 6-star heroes. And this is going to be much more important late game.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think also you can disassemble them, which later on, you can use those, I think they're called heroic tokens.
Yes.
And you can use those to elemental enhance your hero, which is very important for late game. So save up those heroic tokens if you can. And with Season 2, obviously, one thing that comes with the Season 2 update is this system called the scouting system. So in our opinion, in terms of disassembling heroes, the rule of thumb that we always follow is 1-star heroes, 2-star heroes, and 3-star heroes should get disassembled because they give you a pretty good return when it comes to heroic tokens. However, legendary heroes, so 4-star heroes and 5-star heroes, the fated heroes, they don't give you all that much heroic token. But a great place to use them in Season 2 is to put them into the scouting system, as they will give you a great return in terms of your overall general mileage. And that's a great way of using the legendary and fated heroes. So again, the rule of thumb is 1-star through 3-star, disassemble them into heroic tokens, 4-star and 5-star. If you have duplicates of those you don't want, send them into the scouting system, and you'd be setting yourself up for the late game really well if you do that.
That's right, but one thing I want to make a note of is you don't want to just go into your inventory and disassemble all of your 1 to 3 stars, right? You want to keep at least 1 copy of each, and this is for dispatch and treasure hunting, because this is a great way of just passively generating more materials and resources. And so how this works is eventually Fergie, who's one of your assistants in the airship, she'll come out and say, hey, you've unlocked this new content. And essentially what you do is you just build out a team, and I believe you can only use 3-star or lower ranked heroes. So it's good to keep at least 1 of each 3-star because you can't have repeats. And then you'll just send these heroes off for, I believe it's 5 hours for dispatch. And then they will come back later with, maybe some experience scrolls or some solar seals or some other material that you would want. And so it's important to keep them leveled, keep them geared up just like your main team. This is, again, less important because it's not like your main income, but it's still something nice to passively have on the side, so do keep that in mind. And another use for 3-star heroes is in the late game, they will come in handy for special dungeons where you start to have some special requirements, such as it needs to be 3-star, darkness, male. And it's like, oh, who's that? It's Sepher, right? So you are going to want to keep that in mind. And now, why don't we talk about the premium currency in the game, which is Zes or Exes. We're not really... It is Zes? Okay, we're just going to go with Zes. But this is what you are going to want to tunnel on from the beginning to the end of the game, because this is what's going to let you summon on heroes. It's what's going to let you skip levels in your pass. I mean, it's very, very important resource, very, very valuable, lots of uses for it. And there's also a lot of ways to get it. So I'm going to let Hao cover some of the ways that you could farm Exes, or Zes.
Yeah, and I think we have everything covered here, but don't quote me on this. Let's go. So the first way, and I think everyone should be doing this, is through the daily quests, right? So as you get into the game, you see on the top left hand of your screen, there is, this little icon says, talk to Leafy, or talk to, who else is a popular character? Carlos, I think, right? So click on those, do your daily quests. You can do, I think, up to 6 a day. Each one of them will give you a little bit of Zest. It's not a lot. I think at this moment, we're getting 10 per quest for 60 per day. So it's not a lot, but it does build up over time. Another way of getting Zest is through PvP. Obviously, early game, you're not going to be climbing the PvP ranking all that much, but even at the lower ranking, if you just get to silver or gold, you're still able to get a little bit of Zest at the end of each week when the PvP ranking has concluded. So do whatever you can, right? It doesn't matter, especially in the Exos heroes, you are not going to lose points whenever you lose a fight or when someone attacks you. So, go all out. Whenever you have a ticket, use them, right? If you win, you gain something. If you lose, you don't lose anything actually. So it's great. Make sure you do that. And also, as you get into kind of the mid-game, you will be able to unlock Air Squadron, which you can essentially join other people's clan. And what you can do with that is you can unlock raids as well as clan versus clan, or I guess in this case Air Squadron versus Air Squadron battles. And through those battles at the end of each week, you're also able to get a little bit of Zest depending on your clan's placement. So that's one other incentive for you to kind of join a squadron. So go ahead and do that. And each day as you check into the squadron, you also get, I think, 10 Zest per day. So again, not a lot, but it does add up over time. Now, let's move into some of the better ways of getting Zest. One of them in this game is Upier's Labyrinth. But I know, someone is already typing in the comment section, how can you say that's a better way? It's so stupid. I mean, I get it, right? The Upier Labyrinth design isn't great. But let's be real here. The reward in terms of Zest, it's better than most other places in the game, right? So I think if you can clear stage 5, you're able to get, I think, 300 Zest for that stage. So that's pretty good. Clearly, for all the newer players, it's going to be really difficult because the game is designed, the Upir Labyrinth is designed in a way that's not very new player friendly. But make sure you clear level 1 of each stage. Make sure you try to clear level 2 of each stage. Because by doing that, you can still get a few hundred Zest overall. So do as much as you can and try to progress, try to learn what team composition that can help you progress further in the labyrinth, as this will become a ever so important way for us to generate Zest. And once you get to, I believe, whether it's maybe chapter 8, you will also unlock Embodiment of Avarice. And this is essentially kind of a global placement. You go into this raid boss dungeon where you set up a team and you do some damage. The game calculates, your overall damage output and place you among everyone else on the server. So depending on your placement, you will be able to get a certain amount of Zest at the end of the week after the placement has ended. So it doesn't really matter where you are. Obviously, as a newer player, you won't be able to get placed very high on the ranking. But again, it doesn't really cost you anything. It's very easy to set up a team. So there really is everything to gain and nothing to lose here. So make sure you do the Embodiment of Avarice once you have that unlocked. And lastly, if you guys haven't noticed yet, there is a level up reward system in this game. And this is not, the character level ups, but rather your actual account level up. So if you look at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, you can see, your name there and your level there. And to check the level up rewards, you have to go into the specific city. So when you're in the overworld, go to the bottom right-hand side, and whatever the city there is, click that and get into the city itself. And once you're in there, you will see a little icon on the right-hand side that says events. Right, once you open that up, you will be able to see under the events, there's account level. And you can open that up. And here you can see that, once you get to level 10, you'll be getting 30 Zs. Once you get to level 15, you'll be getting 70. And once you get to like the later stages where you're level 25, 30, you're getting a decent amount of Zs in return. So this is really important. This is a great way of generating Zs just by progressing through the story. So make sure you continue to play through the story. It is the best way for you to generate account level, and especially in the early game, there really isn't another way. So this is essentially the dev's way of telling you, do the story, do the main story quest, and progress as much as you can. And when you do that, make sure you always come back here and check and claim your rewards, because I don't think the game gives it to you automatically. But, these are just the ways that we can think of. I think there are a few other smaller ways where you can get it. I think you do get a reward and a few Zs from leveling up your characters or your heroes to a certain level. But all those things are just relatively small and, relatively less significant in the early games. But keep an eye out for those as well.
And so that does it, you guys, for this video. We do hope that you've learned something, or this has been helpful if you are a new player. Maybe even if you're an old player, you learned something new today. But ultimately, just to sum everything up, progress through the story, don't worry about 3-starring, 1 stars are fine, just get as far as you can, and then whatever content you unlock, do it all. Do dailies, spend your levy stones every day. That's the core of the message here. And so, if you guys have any questions, if you're struggling with any content, or maybe something in the video was unclear, please do leave a comment. We'll be glad to help you out and answer any questions that you may have. Other than that, keep an eye out. We will be releasing more Exo Heroes videos in the future, as well as some Lord of Heroes videos, maybe even a beginner's guide for that game. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And I think that does it for this video. So we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Peace.